Today's episode is sponsored by Zola, the platform built with wedding pros for wedding pros. Zola believes in a better way to get in front of couples. Stay tuned to find out how they make it a reality. Hey everyone, it's Andy with The Wedding Biz. Well, it's been several days since the big night, the night that I performed my first comedy stand-up routine in front of a packed house at the Maine Comedy Club here in Washington, D.C. And as I talked about during the month and a half of interview episodes leading up to it, in the introductions, the process of starting from scratch and having never done stand-up comedy before and then coming up with a premise and writing it out and rewriting and then delivering it, performing it. It was one of the most exciting creative ventures I've ever done. It was a similar feeling to the first ultra-luxe weddings that I ever performed, which was when Colin Cowie brought in the band that I formed and ran, Sound Connection, to perform for two different billionaire weddings. One was in the Bahamas and one was in Santa Ynez, California. And I had never done anything at that level, and all the detailed preparation that went into it, the buildup as we got closer and closer to the dates, and then the mix of excitement and anxiety when arriving and getting ready, and then the total exhilaration of performing the gigs and the unbelievable reaction of the client's guests as well as Colin's. And of course, there's also the partial letdown after it's over and going back to normal life. However, once again, yes, it's back to normal, though it's not really normal. You know, I've grown tremendously through the experience and feel different. And I feel some heightened level of some heightened level of existence. And I went after a dream. You know, I fully committed to doing the work, did the best I could. And here I am, ready for whatever comes next. I recommend that all of you do something to shake yourselves up like this. Oh my God, it was quite a journey, but so fulfilling. Anyway, if you missed last week's episode, it was actually a revisit of my original interview of Lori Ahrens, the planner out of LA from 2019. That was a very popular episode. If you missed it, I suggest going back to listen to it. Anyway, today's guest is Meghan Ely, owner of OFD Consulting. She combines in-the-trenches event experience with a love of wedding PR to empower her clients to take their businesses to new heights. Her team's publicity efforts are regularly honored by the Public Relations Society of America, and most recently, Meghan was named the NACE Speaker of the Year. A longtime industry speaker and writer, she is a wedding pro educator with The Knot and Wedding Wire, as well as a regular contributor to Wedding Planner Magazine, Catersource, and SpecialEvents.com. Meghan currently serves as the 2023 International Immediate Past President for WIPA and is a member of the Allied Council for the National Society of Black Wedding and Event Professionals. Enjoy this conversation with Meghan Ely. Hey, Meghan, it's so good to have you back on the show. It's been a while.
I was going to say, Andy, I'm so glad to be back. It has been a while.
Well, it has, and I'm really excited about this topic. You know, we both decided ahead of time that we would talk about dealing with editors and the editorial boom as it relates to the wedding industry. So can you define that term first, the editorial boom? What exactly does that mean?
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure you have heard, as well as many people, that we have been in the midst of a wedding boom, right? So the idea of course, all of these weddings happening, 2022 was huge for events. We're seeing very little slowing down in a lot of ways where it's just this need to get together and so on and so forth. And so thus is the wedding boom. So the editorial boom is it's impacted by that. So what that means is it's a few different things, Andy. You know, one of the big things is because we have so many events, there are so many more events being submitted to blogs and publications. It used to be you were competing year round for the top publications to be featured, right? And then it was more or less you especially were competing in the off season when everyone finally made time to submit, right? Unless they've hired someone, they wait till the off season and do it. So then you were dealing with the competition of that. But now it literally is year round. What's happening is, in addition to that, I mean, editors are humans like the rest of us. And, you know, they too share bandwidth issues and staffing issues and things like that. And now they're getting an influx of submissions of content and pitches and things like that. And as a result, we're seeing on the real wedding side, right, the feature side, we're seeing that there's longer waiting times. We're seeing it's far more competitive at the top tier level here. And we're seeing that it might take 6, 8, 12 weeks to hear back from an editor. And if published, it could be several months. So it really kind of changes how you promote things. And I would think on the side too, for anyone who maybe real weddings are not what catches them, like in terms of a strategy for them, but there's still going to be an editorial boom in the way that people are understanding that, that social proof relevancy is huge with this incoming generation. And so we're seeing a lot more pitches towards even, the writers, people who are doing articles and write-ups and so on and so forth. So it's a boom of an editorial nature.
Are there any specific submission strategies that you can help us with to get real wedding stories, accepted and published?
Absolutely. There's a few things here. First and foremost, I've got to stress how important it is to change one's mindset. I mean, real weddings have been around. That strategy is about 15, 16 years old at this point. That's when we started seeing these features, really hit more of a mainstream strategy. And the mindset has to change. The mindset has to change about the level of expectation that everything is going to get featured at all the things all the time, to know that things are going to take longer, to know that the longer we go and wait until the off season, the less likely things are probably going to get picked up. And so, when it comes to strategy, the first thing is mindset, is to understand things are taking longer and we just have to work around those parameters. The other strategy is, I wish more people would diversify their media strategy. I talk to a lot of people who say, well, I only want Vogue. I only want this. I only want that. And I think, that's a shame, because not every event is going to be at that national tier. There are so many great local and niche blogs and publications that would be amazing. So you could imagine that while you're waiting on X, Y, and Z, there's a lot of great opportunities people are leaving on the table, right? They're not thinking about those. And I would say it's better to diversify. And the other thing is year-round submissions. Like, listen, and Andy, I don't know if you knew this about me. I was in events for years, and I know what the busy season looks like. I know what the busy season looks like as it heads into the holiday season, as being in hotels. I mean, with what you do, right? It doesn't slow down until the holidays wrap up. But the one of the top strategies truly these days is to make this a year-round strategy, not necessarily hiring someone, but doing it in-house. Like, have it on the brain, even if it's only 30 minutes a week dedicated to it, so that you always have things out for the editors to see.
That's a really great point. Well, with what you're talking about, obviously these editors must be crazy busy, dealing with all that's going on, and you're talking about year round. Are there any, I guess for us to have more realistic expectations as to what's possible, like with the editors having to handle such heavy workloads, how do we deal with them in order to cut through and to understand what they deal with?
Sure. Well, first of all, you get in the mindset of the media. Now, I am not a member of the media, so I want to be very careful knowing that, right? I can't speak on their behalf, but I can tell you that they're used to a 24-hour news cycle. They're always on deadline, especially the writers. They're always on deadline. And, they just don't have the time to go pour through everything down to the last, what have you. And so with that being in mind, it's important to realize, and listen, I know PR sounds sexy. I'm about to share the least sexy tip known to man, but you've got to find out, get ready. You have to follow the rules. So when these writers, these editors, these bloggers come out and they're looking for weddings, it is not going to serve anyone, first of all, to just send everything to a writer. You send your very best. That's the best fit for them. Making sure that everyone thinks PR is people running around with a big megaphone showcasing your work and expertise. But that's not the case. It's listening. It's paying attention. So it's taking 15 minutes every week. You've got some top publications you're looking at, like your favorite ones. Maybe it's Green Wedding Shoes and Ruffled and Inside Weddings. Like, I'm just making this up. But you take time, 15, 20 minutes a week, to just read their content and understand, and send the content that makes the most sense for these publications, while also really committing to memory what the submission guidelines are. You are doing no favors sending Inside Weddings a wedding, not to speak on their behalf, but to send something to them that doesn't follow the rules of how many photos, how they want their vendor list, the size images as well. So really it's the least sexy tip I could give, but it's following the rules and only sending your very best work. You're not going to get in Martha Stewart weddings by taking all 15 of your weddings and sending them to the editor. That's unless every single one of them is perfect for that publication.
Zola initially revolutionized registries and wedding websites, but did you know that they're now changing the game for wedding pros too? That's because Zola is a different kind of platform, one built for how you work today. Create free listings tailored to your services that make your business look great, and there's no subscription required. Connecting with couples has never been easier. Zola vets all leads to bring you real couples who are a great fit for you in terms of your fee, your expertise, and your style. So gain control and grow your business with transparent, pay-to-connect pricing. Create your free listing and get your first few connections for free at zola.com/Andy. That's ZOLA.com/Andy. How do we best communicate with editors? How do we keep the lines of communication open with them?
That's a great question. And I wish more people asked that. Every editor is going to be a bit different. If there's one thing I want everyone to do is to bookmark for their favorite publications, the submission guidelines page. Nearly every site, nearly every magazine will have, this page that is dedicated to submissions, and they will tell you exactly how to do it. With that being said, there's a few different ways. Some of them have a form. I know that sounds very informal, or it sounds very formal, I'm sorry, but I got to tell you, if that's what they want, that's what they want. That is their work flow, right? Some of them will include an email and exactly what they want. And then, we've got some that still use some of the third-party software, such as Two Bright Lights, as well as Matchology, and they prefer it through that. With that being said, Andy, you and I are alum of Going to Engage. You and I both know that a lot of editors matriculate at Engage. They have a media room typically, and so on and so forth. For those who are just kind of in the periphery getting to know the writers, you follow the rules. For those ready to elevate and want to, really form those relationships, I would suggest taking the time to at least look at some of the conferences, networking. I mean, there's so many out there where you might be able to find these editors, and you might find that you fall into a relationship where they want direct pitches from you, but they need to let you know that. We can't assume. And Andy, if I may add also what not to do, because I figured that question is coming.
Please.
Don't DM them. Please don't DM them. Don't DM them on Instagram. Don't tag them and everything. I think that's one of the top complaints I hear from editors outside of receiving content that's truly not a fit for them, right? That's probably the number one. But one of the top ones is, let's say you have a gorgeous event from last week and your photographer kindly sent you some sneak peeks. That's great. You post it on Instagram, then you tag all of these outlets in the photo. That's one of the worst things that you could do. That's the opposite of a direct route to the editor.
Well, I'm thinking too, and this goes beyond editors. This is with just any kind of networking skill, in any industry is, okay, once we break through, which I guess we've just spoken about, and then keeping in touch so that they remember us and that they trust us. That's a tough thing in any position is how do you keep it going? You know what I'm saying? How do you do that?
100%. So there's a few things that you can do. First and foremost, as you submit, it's a matter of staying organized. PR is really meant to be a type A sort of strategy, which is why I think I fell into it all those years ago, is being mindful. When did I send something out? Has it been the, period of time? Let's say it's been 8 weeks. Has it been a little over 8 weeks? Do I follow up? If they don't hear back, do I close the loop on it? Thank them for the consideration. You move on, right? Go make friends with another editor, and then come back to a place where, you've offered that you look forward to submitting again down the road to them. And so you start, that's the basics, the very basics of making sure that you follow the rules again, and you close the loop when needed. And if they do reach out and you're accepted, which is amazing, that you prioritize them as if they're a client. If someone reaches out from Vogue and says, this is a go, or Over the Moon, or whatever, and this is what we need, you prioritize them as if they're a paying client, and you get them what they need. That is memorable. Now that's basic level. Next level is follow them on social media, follow them on wherever they hang their hat, as long as it's not a private account that's clearly, family based with their kids and they don't want everyone following them. Follow them, get to know them as people, figure out, if you are someone who really wants to prioritize this, pay attention to where they show up to. Great example. Hannah Nowak over at the Knot, who's literally one of the nicest people, just very approachable, lovely, impeccable taste, all these things, she's lovely. And, you can find her typically at Wedding Pro Core, which is the Wedding Pro is the B2B brand of the Knot worldwide. Like, pay attention to where these folks are. And if it really is a priority, consider adding that to your budget to attend some of these things. Our first pickup in Harper's Bazaar came after I went to engage the breakers, and I purposely went to the breakfast in the morning. I was the nerd who was the first one there, ready to have pastries with all the editors, and it's not a coincidence that I started seeing an uptick after spending time getting to know folks. So doesn't mean you have to go to said conference. They often show up as speakers at other conferences or WIPA events, for example. So, really doing that. It's that online mixed with in-person as you can. And then again, just treating it with that level of professionalism and giving them the same sort of level of professionalism that you do your clients.
Yeah, no, I like that. Makes sense. And I've got one more question, but before I ask it, is there anything else that maybe I missed, in this particular conversation to help navigate the boom?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I can't stress enough. People are really hot for the real wedding features, which I'm so glad that this is what we've been focusing on because it still is a great strategy. But people, and I see this lamenting in different Facebook groups saying, well, it's just taking so long to hear back from editors and so on and so forth. And it is what it is. There are other ways for people to get their name out there. I think they forget that, right? I'm going to be meta, Andy, for a second, but it's being on podcasts. That's a great way to have that visibility and relevancy. It's the submitting yourself for quotes. I mean, in between these 8 to 10 weddings you submit in a year, I would highly encourage people to sign up, for free programs such as Haro, Help a Reporter Out, where you do have legitimate writers looking for experts, such as wedding experts. There's just so many ways that you can get published in between navigating this submission boom.
Yeah. And before we go, Meghan, how can people best utilize your services? I really want people to know what you have to offer. Again, what is the best way to utilize your services?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. So I have a wedding PR membership. It is 6 years now at the time of this recording, and we just hit our 6-year mark with that. I've been doing this 14 years, but I developed over a year's time this wedding PR membership, OFDcollective.com. We just introduced a 4th tier, and that's where we spend time with amazing wedding pros, all around the world. And so it's going to be those who want education. We actually have what's called PR leads. And so we work with writers about 25 times a month who need, we're working with brides.com, The Knot. We actually were working this week with wine enthusiasts, like all these great places that have wedding related content and connect our members. But we also streamline the real wedding submission process and support industry speakers. So that's a great place just to kind of say, hey, maybe I'm at the point where I'm ready to explore outsourcing. What does that look like? And I'm always happy to chat with people there about that.
That sounds great. Well, Meghan, every time we talk, you have so much valuable information
thank you.
To impart. So thank you for doing this again. And, we'll definitely periodically have you back on. And just thanks again for your time.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Great to chat.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to my conversation with Meghan Ely. If you enjoyed this episode, don't keep it to yourself. Be sure to tell a friend. And if you want to listen to previous appearances of Meghan on The Wedding Biz, go to theweddingbiz.com, type her name into the search field, and you'll see which episodes she was in. You can find her on the web at ofdconsulting.com, also ofdcollective.com, and weddingindustryspeakers.com. Her social media handle is OFD Consulting. And next week, we're going to have photographer Joel Serrato, which is a really great episode. And also, I want to thank our sponsor, Zola. Remember to go to zola.com/Andy to create your free listing and get your first few connections for free. And we'll catch you next week on The Wedding Biz.